Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special live edition of Pro Soccer Talk. I'm your host, Joe Prince-Wright here in England. Delighted to say, as always, I'm joined by Nick Mendola in Buffalo, New York, and Andy Edwards in Kansas City. And we're doing another watch-along, gents. We had one for the USA-England game. That was a roaring success, so thanks to everyone for joining us for that. And now we have one for the massive Argentina against Mexico game. And Nick, it doesn't get much better than this, right? I mean, for the passion, the national anthems are going on. Huge fan bases from Argentina and Mexico, making this the best atmosphere of the stadium. Best stadium atmosphere of the tournament so far for me. I think when I look around the stadium and see these sites. So Argentina, the equation is simple for them. If they lose to Mexico today, they are out of the World Cup. So again, doesn't get much bigger than this in terms of the storylines, narrative, Lionel Messi's last World Cup. What are you looking forward to in this game, mate? Because this is quite the occasion once again.
I find at least three, and now four, as we mentioned in our group chat talking with Andy before. I find all four of these teams so likable, and I'd like to see them in the other round. I want to see Lewandowski do well. Say what you will about Saudi Arabia and some of the off-field issues, if you will, but they play fun, aggressive, arguably electric, as Andy says, soccer. And now you've got Messi and our neighbors to the south, CONCACAF pride with Mexico. So for me, I thought about wearing for this game my old Newcastle Fabrizio Colaccini alternate kit, so I can both nod to the movie Goal, where Santiago Muñoz for Mexico played for Newcastle, and nod at Messi, who is my favorite player of all time. I kind of want, I just want both teams to have fun.
Yeah. We're going to have fun, right, Andy, throughout this. I mean, people are getting your comments in already, so keep them coming in. Let's see some score predictions out there. And Andy, let's kind of discuss that. What do you think is going to happen here in this game, and which way do you see it? Surely Argentina cannot play that badly again. But if they do, Mexico are good enough to take full advantage of any mistakes that Argentina.
Yeah, first things first, I would just like to relax and enjoy this game. Unlike yesterday's game where there was so much tension and the buildup and everything. That was an exhausting experience, not just doing the couple hours, watch along live here and everything, but just the buildup to it and the fear that eventually creeps in when you've got a really big game, and especially one you've been looking forward to for a number of months. And so to finally get that out of the way and then get back to some neutral action, I think is a really welcome change. And we'll see what we get from Argentina today. I would imagine that given the experience that they have, the fact that they obviously, reigning South American champions after winning Copa America last summer, I would imagine we see a strong, mature response from them, as you would expect to see from any team that's a favorite to win at a major tournament. It's very, very interesting and a gift from the soccer gods that these two teams match up in this second game in the situations that they're in, because this, I think when the groups came out, probably looked at and said, okay, those are the two that'll probably get out of the group. Whatever happens in that game almost doesn't matter so long as they beat the other two teams. As soon as Argentina dropped 3 points and Mexico didn't have the best performance in their game either, this game became everything for both sides. And so the intensity that both teams always play with, you combine that with one another and the desperation that's going to creep in. This could be an incredibly, incredibly entertaining 90 minutes.
There you go. There's a lot of good predictions coming in. Obviously, Vince there, Argentina 4, Mexico 0. There's Mexico fans out there. Pepe saying Mexico is going to win 1-0. Cameron said Argentina 1-0. Got some 1-1 predictions. Gigi says Mexico to win 1-0. 3-0 Argentina. 2-1 Argentina. Nick, what is your prediction for this game as it's just kicked off in Group C? This is so tight with so many changes. Mexico have gone to a 3-5-2. It looks like Argentina have changed 3 of their back 4 and made 5 changes overall to the starting lineup. So obviously they weren't happy with what they saw defensively against Saudi Arabia. Even though I didn't think that was the real problem for them, right? Going forward was more of the issue in that game in the second half in particular. So what's your prediction, mate, to join everyone in the comments? What do you think is going to happen today?
I think the only thing I can tell you is I think Argentina is going to come out with a win. I think it's going to be a tight game, but there are too many times in my life of watching this kid, the atomic ant. He's a kid. He's 5 years younger than me. There are too many times I've watched him, and he comes up with that moment. And I think of the Nigeria game where they were in a similar group situation a few years ago. Even the France game that they lost, but he was all over the pitch. So the only thing I can tell you is I expect Messi to score, have a sensational assist. This Mexico team can do anything from stink it up to look great. I mean, what have we seen in qualifying? This is an anything but consistent team.
Very much so. Yeah. Vicente Martinez, Mexico got some flags going. Morgan's joining us. There's some debate in there, which we'll discuss later, but Ronaldo or Messi, and given Kylian Mbappe's performance today, we'll talk about that and maybe a potential changing of the guard and passing the baton over in this World Cup in particular. But the game is underway. Argentina having a lot of ball at the back. And Andy, interesting the way Mexico is set up, right, with Lozano and Vega kind of up top in that forward two. Lozano playing, it looks like, just to really get in behind this Argentine defense. But Messi's already buzzing around and causing problems. And Mexico defended that okay. But Argentina very much taking it to Mexico early on. So Tata, his tactic, it looks like trying to catch them on the counter. Do we agree with that?
Try. I mean, it is fully set up for that with the speed that they've got up. And I don't think it's a bad idea either, because you've got Argentina, who are slightly more desperate given the result in that first game. And so they do have to, and as the better team, they have to kind of drive the game and dictate the tempo of it a little bit. And so that presents opportunities with any lineup to counterattack against them, and especially with center backs that are maybe not the most mobile in the world, and they're pushing up beyond the halfway line. So there's going to be a lot of space there, and that's a little dangerous for Argentina, I would say, because we know what Chucky can do when he gets into space and he gets one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Vega probably going to be the next Mexican attacking star to make a jump to Europe, possibly as soon as right after the World Cup. And so, they might have limited chances up top for Mexico in this game, but I think there'll be good ones when they do come.
Okay, we got a comment coming in from Shelley Gal Knight. Where can we actually watch the game? So you can watch in Peacock and on Telemundo in Spanish in the USA. And in the USA, you can watch in Fox in English as well. So a couple of options for you. But obviously, NBC family of channels, pull Peacock up on one stream, have us up on another, mute the game, listen to us, ask us your questions, and then we'll complement each other very well, I'm sure. Nick, when it comes to Mexico, I mentioned it there, the first game against Poland, really unlucky not to get the win. Obviously, Ochoa saved them with that penalty kick and got the point. So they can kind of afford to play for the draw here, right, in terms of their final group games against Saudi Arabia. So I'm not saying they're in a comfortable position. They're still the huge underdogs here, but sets up quite well for them. We've been talking about this a lot in the tournament, right? Into certain group stage and groups for certain teams, it's worked out pretty well, the schedule. And I feel like Mexico fall into that category of it just falling in their favor slightly.
I just think there's so many people on their team, and we've talked about this a bit. There's so many people on this team who have been there, done that, even against a guy like Messi, with Herrera having been in La Liga, Guardado, Ochoa, Moreno has been in basically every situation imaginable, including in Serie A. So it is going to be about rising to that level. We've talked about how the U.S. is going up towards a golden generation, we would hope, in the past. This is Mexico, I think, still young in some positions, but very much feasting on that middle range of it. They're not, would you say they're in the prime? They're still, a lot of these guys are younger, but they're still able to get top-notch performances out of Herrera. It's not like he's over the hill and won't play again.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's almost a bit of a lost generation right in the middle. You've got some of the guys like Lozano, obviously Vega, and then you've got Guardado coming back into the starting lineup today, and all his experience, Ochoa. Obviously, you mentioned Herrera there, Mick, and it's just, I think when you look at the US, there was the very clear shift needed, right, in terms of the players in a certain generation just weren't good enough, and that's why they didn't make the 2018 World Cup. So there's a drastic change in the US. I think Mexico, they just keep making the World Cup with the players that they've had in the squad of and great talents they've had over the last, decade now, at least. So, it's going to be interesting to see that transition, Nick, the next kind of step. And this seems to me like Chucky Lozano's World Cup, right, to really step up and carry this team on his back. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, well, I'm going to throw a question back to you guys because it just came to mind, and I've not thought about it yet. But do you think, like, Tata, is he the guy to, beyond this World Cup, let's say it's not an embarrassment, it's not a disaster, he doesn't get fired in disgrace, that kind of situation, would you stick with him, knowing that he does have? I mean, he has a solid history, at least when he was in MLS, of favoring a lot of younger talent. And if you need someone to bring those type of players into the team in the next 3.5 years leading up to the next World Cup, I know that he's gotten a lot of stick, and I know that a lot of people wanted him gone at a lot of different times during World Cup qualifying. But I think you could do worse than that.
Yeah, Nick, what's your thoughts on him? Because, like you said earlier, you never quite know what you're going to get with this Mexico team, and it hasn't been pretty to watch them in CONCACAF World Cup qualifying, but they've got the results they needed when they need it, right? So it's a tough job. It's a really tough job for any manager.
It is. I don't know. And the reason I don't know is that's not to hedge or to get out of it, but just because I want to know who else is available. I want to know who else is, possible for the international game, because, and I also want to know how the rest of the tournament's going to go. I do. Let's say they lose to Argentina today, which is completely understandable, but beat Saudi Arabia and still don't make their way through for whatever reason. I don't even know if that's within the realm of possibility. I want to know how the tournament turns out. I've been thinking about this with Greg Berhalter as well. There is a huge game coming up. I just wrote about it. What can the U.S. do to unlock their attack? Well, regardless of what happens in this game, how can you take a guy who can't figure out how to get a goal? Regardless, I think we'd all agree in game 1 and game 2, he pushed almost all the right buttons. There weren't so many subs in one, but at this tournament is what you're going to be judged on. And I think you have to. I can't imagine that. So I want to know what the outcome is before I can have a firm opinion on that.
Definitely. So Mexico got a corner early on, and as we expected, Lozano's been buzzing around and nearly got in on a couple of counters already. So Lisandro Martinez, Man United's Lisandro Martinez, making a clearance there. I think he's going to have his hands full today, right, Andy, with Lozano. Although we have seen him defend very well for United and has impressed everyone since he arrived in the Premier League from Ajax. But Mexico started okay in this game, and we certainly haven't seen much of Messi. So maybe the plan to kind of crowd him out in that 3-5-2 formation is, and a bit of a nasty tackle there going in on Lozano, just as we mentioned him. So he could get a bit of the treatment today, right? He seems to always be in the wars, much like Christian Pulisic. He is definitely going to be a target, and he is Mexico's outlet.
Yeah, I think Lisandro is going to get a good workout today, covering a lot of making recovery runs, emergency defending, going back towards his own goal, just for the fact he's playing alongside 34, 35-year-old Nicolas Otamendi at this point. And we saw some of his struggles, especially against the mobility in the open space, the counterattacking ability of Saudi Arabia in that first game. So, I don't know, the more this game gets going, and Argentina are not really establishing anything in Mexico's half of the field, and Mexico are allowed to have the ball and just feel alive in this game, I think is the most important thing for them at this point. The longer they feel like that, I think the more confidence they're going to build, and I think the more trouble that questionable back line for Argentina could be in.
Yeah, talking about that questionable back line, a good ball whipped in from a free kick on the left, and looked like Hector Herrera maybe just got a nick on it, was trying to get in at the back stick, just slid just away from him. But first kind of half chance of the game going to Mexico, which, Argentina, Nick, I mean, making that many changes obviously said a lot about they weren't happy with the defeat, obviously not to Saudi Arabia, but we spoke about it yesterday, didn't we? Is that actually that much wrong with their display against Saudi Arabia, apart from maybe the sluggish nature in the second half once they went 2-1 down to try and get back in the game? I mean, really, they could have scored 3 or 4 times in the first half if their passes were just right and the runs weren't half a yard offside with all those offside goals. So do you think it really need to change that much? Or is this kind of a little bit of a sign that they're panicking a little bit because they know if they lose today, they're out of the World Cup, which is, again, just blows my mind thinking about that, given how far we pretty much all had them going in this tournament.
I think 1 or 2 things might have changed in terms of personnel, but I don't think the tactics will. Mexico, just a very different, not very different, but different enough team from Saudi Arabia that I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Scaloni has a little bit of house credit stored up from what he's been able to do. And my thought is that this was part of the plan. If it isn't, then, I mean, what are you doing? You've got Lionel Messi. You've had all this time to prepare for it. How can you change that drastically? And thinking about that, I actually want to raise you guys a question. How much of this even as an elite athlete who's used to playing with some fantastic players, how much of this is on from time to time the nerves that come from thinking you're not just going to let your nation down, but you're going to let potentially the greatest player of all time down? That has to be in your head at some point, at least maybe not during the game, but the night before the game.
Yeah, it's so true. I think you could almost see it in that defeat to Saudi Arabia. When they went down, they were kind of looking towards him for inspiration, right? And I think there is a pressure, Nick. You're right. There's a lot of younger players now coming through in the Argentine team who are basically, I think, just looking around expecting him to save them as well. And for the most part, the Copa America win, World Cup qualifying, that had kind of changed, right? It kind of been a cumulative effort and just a whole unit. And Messi was, as you said, an ancillary kind of piece, right? He was just, he'd made them all tick and made them all better. But now in these situations, which they haven't really had, I mean, what was it, 36 games unbeaten before they lost to Saudi Arabia? So this is pretty much an entire team that has no experience of reacting to a defeat together for Argentina. So, I think when you look at how they're going to respond, I still think a lot of these players aren't capable of taking the game by the scruff of the neck themselves, and they really still need Messi to lead them. And I don't know if he really is that leader, right, Andy? I mean, he's obviously an incredible player, but when the chips are down sometimes, I'm not saying he goes missing, but he's the kind of player that needs to get the ball to him all the time. And I don't think you want him dropping 40, 50 yards deeper to try and get on the ball, because that's just not where he's going to be able to impact the game at his very best.
Yeah, not quite that much deeper. I think he will eventually at some point during this tournament, just out of necessity, take on a bit more of a playmaker role, because they do have a couple of pretty good options at center forward. And so I don't think he's going to be asked to score all the goals. And I think that's good for him. He's always needed help for Argentina. That was the story when he dragged them single-handedly to a Copa America final, a World Cup final, and a Copa America final in 3 straight summers, and they lost all 3 of them. So it's nice to see him having that. The pressure of playing with Messi is a really interesting thing, and something, because these are humans at the end of the day. And I think that we forget that a lot, because they are incredible players. They're incredible athletes. They're celebrities. They're famous. We see them on social media and everything. We think that, that it's not a human, and it is at the end of the day. And I think, I mean, that was no clearer than when they won Copa America last summer. And as soon as the final whistle went, it wasn't everybody running around like crazy and celebrating on their own. It was everybody Messi, a missile right for Messi. I want in on that first hug with Messi. And so the pressure, but it's also there's also a joy to it as well. And I'm sure that, that's what players would speak about first and everything. But if they're honest, I would imagine that it is like that. And it's probably that way with all great players. I'll say this. I think it's a lot more fun to be Messi's Argentina teammate than probably Ronaldo's for Portugal.
Yeah, I think you agree with that. So in the comment section, I wonder how this is going to go. Ronaldo or Messi? Let us know who you think is the better player or the GOAT.
What a way to spend a Saturday afternoon in the U.S.
I know.
No one's ever had that discussion. I think it's time. Yeah.
This is the ultimate poll now. Whoever says Messi or Ronaldo more in the comments, this is the decider in world football, and we will never ever talk about this ever again. We will, of course, we will. But interesting, as we watch it, and you were talking about the great Lionel Messi. He got on the ball on the halfway line, pretty much just in front of the Argentine centre backs, and then got tackled, and Mexico broke away. So, that's what I'm on about there. It's just a little bit. He's trying to get in the game, but that's not where you want him at all. That is
Mexico look really good right now, and I'm over here thinking because what they're doing is they're pressing, and then they're causing a lot of trouble just not letting Argentina get comfortable in this game. And sometimes when they win the ball back, they're trying to counter immediately. Sometimes they're just trying to keep the ball, and they've been impressive so far. And I'm thinking about other teams that have been impressive during this World Cup. We've already talked about Saudi Arabia beating Argentina. Spain, I think we expected something similar to that from them, especially against Costa Rica. But there's a few other teams that have really impressed and won, I think, a lot of new fans at this tournament by playing a really pressing style. Ecuador have just absolutely blown away both of their opponents with that kind of energy. Canada, obviously the new darlings of the world for the way that they pressed and fought and battled against Belgium, and the U.S. as well. And so maybe this press in the international game, we're starting to see it utilized as a bit of an equalizer of talent. Like much less talented teams are suddenly able to compete and really give trouble to some of these giants because of that, because the international game, especially this tournament, it's a little bit more simple. It's a little bit more straightforward than what you see for clubs that are able to train and drill it together every day.
Well, training against the press, right? Every day, you know the guy next to you, you know the guy in front of you, where he's going to be. That familiarity, as you mentioned, is a lot easier to come across, and especially in situations where, again, there's so many teams like this for some reason. Well, not for some reason. We know what happens. Your teammate at the international level joins a club, and now that club's more interesting to you. But this is exactly the reason why I think Ream and Robinson have looked so good for the U.S. through 2 games. And I'll be interested to see as we move forward how many teams kind of get that switch right. That could be what's working for Spain right now. It is a heavy Barcelona, Atletico Madrid team.
Absolutely. And just seeing when Argentina have had a bit of the ball here now, and just the formation that Mexico are basically sitting back in a 5-4-1 when Argentina do have the ball. So pretty clear from the early tactics here. Mexico are fine with getting a point and going into the last game against Saudi Arabia, backing themselves to get all 3 points. I mean, a lot of comments coming in on the Messi-Ronaldo situation and the question. Angelina, a big Messi fan, obviously. I can see a lot of comments coming in on Messi there. Few brave Ronaldo fans in the comment section, I would say. There's a lot of Argentina fans showing up here, obviously, for this live watch along between Argentina and Mexico.
Joe, it's still early in this game, so I don't know that we've ever just had this conversation, and I have a pretty bold take. I will tell you, I think Ronaldo is obviously one of the greatest players of all time, but I don't even understand how people say it's close. To me, it's Messi one.
Oh, okay.
I bet the second. I think he's the best of all time. That you can arguably compare, and I don't think Ronaldo would end up being second. So go ahead in the comment section and tell me how smart I am. No, I don't think it's close because of the assists.
Who would be second then? Maradona second?
Well, I'm not Argentine. No. Honestly, second. I like a lot of different players. I wouldn't know where to go with that. But everyone wants to tell you Gerd Mueller, right? They want to tell you Beckenbauer or Maldini. It's tough. Second is tough, but when we're just going for that sort of scorer, striker, ultimate position, I have to say Messi and probably Pele. I mean, Pele revolutionized the way people view soccer. He's the one name everyone knows.
Yeah, that's very true. It's very true. I think it's closer than you're saying between Messi and Ronaldo, but I really don't like to pick, if I'm honest, because I just think they are 2 totally different types of player. And yeah, I do respect the way that Ronaldo changed his game from, watching him in England when he was 17 at Man United. He was just a tricky winger, a bit of a, just Mexico on the break there, winning a free kick, Lozano about 30 odd yards out, got in behind Otamendi to win the free kick. So that's the game plan there for Mexico. But yeah, I think Ronaldo's just changed his game completely. Got a lot of respect for that. Messi, just the sort of innate ability, right? I think what he does and how he glides over a pitch. Yes, he got a great grounding at Barcelona, but I just think most of the things he does do with a football, you cannot teach that. That's just almost, it's God-given, right? Those players come around once every 30 years or so. And then I think you're probably right. Messi is the best of all time, I would say, for how long he's done it at the top level. And then I think Ronaldo, Pele, and Maradona are right there as well. And some people will probably have Maradona even ahead of Messi or right on the level as well, because it's pretty much single-handedly won them the World Cup title, didn't he? Yeah, Andy, I guess that's the next debate. I mean, if they do go out tonight, Messi's last World Cup, I mean, how does that kind of leave his legacy? Does that really impact it for you? For some people, the fact he won the Copa America showed that he could win with Argentina on the international stage, but it would still be a little bit of a question mark, right, when it comes to discussing the great talents, because that's what Maradona and Pele did for their respective nations. They helped them win and were crucial in World Cup wins.
Yeah, I find it really hard to take away from what Messi's done in his career based on what Argentina have not done with him in the team. I understand that the incredible amount of talent that they produce. That people think and automatically expect them to be a team that's winning major tournaments. But long before Messi was in the Argentine national team, they were not winning the World Cup for it's been since 1986. It's been 36 years, same time since Canada was even last in the World Cup. And so there's a lot of years that didn't involve Messi and a lot of failures in there as well. And so I think and just like giving him all of the credit for when they did win it, and saying this was Messi's moment, like I understand how that sends slightly mixed messages, but at the same time, it's a player like that makes the difference in so many different moments throughout their career. And having won so many things at Barcelona, I think you just automatically expect him to do it for Argentina, but he's never had anything close to what he had at Argentina or at Barcelona for Argentina. So I just can't take away from him for that point there. That's
It's even worse than it looked in.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's a sending off. It's a sending off to me.
Yeah.
It's very CONCACAF-y. It's not a sending off in World Cup qualifying, but at a World Cup, that is a sending off.
Okay, here's a question. Good comment coming in. Get your questions coming in for us. That's why we're here, guys. Send in your questions, thoughts on the game. LOTXS. I think I'm just going to say that is where the comments come from. Portugal struggled against Ghana. It'll be a miracle if they even qualify. Argentina is obviously going to make the round of 16. I don't know where this confidence is coming from, but and eventually win the final because Messi is the GOAT. So, I mean, that's a lot of confidence there, my friend. But what do we think about this? If they do get through the group stage, are Argentina that kind of team where they could grow into the tournament, right? I think there's a few teams like that. Just get out of the group as quick as possible. And then kind of Germany have done it in the past, right? Not really been sensational, but just as the tournament goes on, just keep getting better and better. And yeah, Nick, that's an interesting question, right? If they do make it out of the group, then it's a cliche, but it's a whole new tournament then. As soon as you get to the last 16, it's totally different. And if you have tight games and you have Messi on your team, then he's probably going to 9 times out of 10 make the difference that really counts.
It is. Just to jump away from Argentina to say this, I think Portugal is fantastic. I think Ronaldo, if they're playing the way they need to play, and he's bought into the system, he can live as a center forward and do what he does best there, because they don't require a lot of them with what Neves does in the center of the pitch, and Ruben Diaz, Bernardo Silva, João Felix, Bruno Fernandes is the best player on the team. I mean, Bruno Fernandes was absolutely electric. My question is, I think they're one center back away, with all due respect to Pereira. I don't know who holds it down next to Diaz. Pepe's on the bench. But even their bench, that was the thing that blew my mind during that game. It's a who's who of who's been linked to the Premier League and made transfers to the Premier League. Yeah. Mateus Nunes, Horta, Vitinha, João Pelinha, who of course is at Fulham and having a heck of a time right now. Yeah. I think Portugal can make a run if they get the appropriate center back play next to Ruben Diaz.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, good question here coming in from Andrea. If Mexico wins, is another upset for Argentina? Of course, Andrea, if Mexico wins, Argentina are out of the World Cup. They have crashed out after 2 games. So, Andy, is it too far to say this would be an upset for Mexico to win? I mean, it kind of would be similar if the US would have beat England last night, right? It's not a huge upset if it happens, but it's not as big as, say, I wouldn't even argue it would be as big as Japan beating Germany. I think that's a bigger upset, potentially. But go ahead. How would you answer that question?
Yeah, again, all due respect to a team like Saudi Arabia. I know we have to keep coming back to that and using them as the example because they're the ones that have done the thing at this tournament so recently. But Mexico and the U.S. are not Saudi Arabia, and so them in relation to an England or to an Argentina, it's not apples to apples in any way, because Mexico and also Mexico and Argentina are quite familiar with one another. I think they've played a handful of those kind of commercially driven friendlies internationally the last handful of years, typically in the United States, because that's where they do so well. And so now it wouldn't be a huge upset. I think when the groups were drawn, again, this was the game that everybody looked at and said, 1, that's probably going to be the best game of the group, and 2, it's probably going to determine who's going to finish top of the group. Now things have changed just a little bit, and so I do think it gives Argentina an urgency that they did not have and they needed to have in that first game. And so It's slightly more of an upset, I suppose, given the situations because Argentina need it so badly. And I think you just expect a team like Argentina, they have to have a certain result, especially in the group stage so early in a tournament. You just assume that they're going to get it.
Absolutely. Good question here from Nelafar. Nick, I'm coming to you with this very easy question. Which country do you think will win the World Cup? I mean, been some impressive displays so far. France, Brazil, Spain. Those kind of the front runners at the moment for you. And let's open it up in the comments. Who do you guys think are going to win the World Cup? Let us know. But Nick, you go ahead, my friend.
Sure, Joe. I had Brazil and France before the tournament. Not much has changed in my mind. I will say, if I had the chance now, knowing what I know now, and Neymar not being 100%, potentially missing the rest of the group stage, I think I would pick France to win. We'll have the Mbappe discussion later, but I am one of, I don't want to say of the few. I think Neymar's not overhyped. I think he's a fantastic player. And because he's been on the same team as Messi and then the same team as Mbappe and always been in a loaded Brazil side, that maybe we haven't given him the proper love. I mean, he gets fouled at that Jack Grealish level. I know he was given so much grief, right, the last tournament for diving, but he is just carved up on a night-by-night basis. And maybe it's the earrings, the blonde hair, whatever. But I don't think he gets his due for being a spectacular playmaker and competitor. And he's been the captain of Brazil.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's if one team can with kind of hold losing their and withstand losing their key man, then it's Brazil, right? With the Richarlison, Rafinha, Anthony, Vinicius, Gabriel Jesus, Rodrigo, Gabriel Martinelli. They've got options, to be fair. So it's almost like let's not take any chances with Neymar for the final two group stage games. We've already got a win on the board. That's pretty smart, I think, from Brazil not to rush him back. Maybe he'll come on and play 10, 20 minutes in the final group stage game if needed. But they're already thinking about the knockout rounds, and that makes me a bit scared because they were absolutely kind of in second and third gear against Serbia, who are a very good team. I just took care of business there. Andy, what about you? Do you have some predictions? Not as crazy as Hunter's prediction there for who will win the World Cup, but yeah. Do you have any predictions on who you think?
Yeah, so I had Argentina over France in the final coming in. Feeling real confident about that after one game and a half hour here as well. I think Argentina do have the potential to still go on a deep run, but it's going to get complicated though if they're not able to win the group. You know who's waiting for them in the round of 16, straight into the knockout rounds. It's going to be France.
Oh yeah.
It's a big difference whether Argentina finished first in the group or if Argentina finished second in the group. And so it makes this game here for a team like if Mexico were to draw France in the round of 16, you would say, okay, that's fine. Like this is a round of 16 team. They come up against someone better, they get knocked out. If it's Argentina, the expectation is to be there much later in the tournament. So it adds to that urgency and that importance of this game here against Mexico, and obviously the final game of the group stage as well. So very, very interested to see how this next hour is going to go, because I do think it's going to obviously affect Argentina, but also if France have to go through an Argentina in the round of 16, not saying they can't beat them, but that complicates things, makes it a more difficult game. The team is set up and rotated and used differently, which sets you up differently for the quarterfinals. So all these little dominoes are going to start to come into play in consideration when you think where teams want to finish in the group, who they want to face in the knockout rounds.
Yeah, great point there on France, Andy. And just want to say hello to Braun Stevens, Vera Gonzalez, a lot more people joining us. So thanks so much for joining us for this live watch along. Argentina against Mexico, half an hour on the clock. It's 0-0. And I want to remind you can watch along with us. Pull up a Peacock stream. You can watch on Telemundo in Spanish in the USA as well. So pull up one of those streams, have us on the other, ask your questions, and we'll answer as best as we possibly can. And a reminder, in the USA, you can watch this game on Fox in English as well on their platform. So, this is getting interesting. The France debate there, Andy, you brought it up very nicely that they could be playing Argentina. Nick, that kind of brings us on to someone we saw earlier today, Kylian Mbappe, scoring twice, France beating Denmark 2-1. The reigning champs are the first team at this World Cup to already punched their ticket, and they're in the last 16. They're sitting pretty, and they can relax for their final group game now. But Mbappe, for you, this is a big question here, so we can take a bit of time answering this. Is he the best player at the tournament and in the world now, ahead of Messi and ahead of I think we already know he's ahead of Ronaldo, but it's kind of like that, the passing of the era and the passing of the baton, right? Of Mbappe, even the last tournament was excellent. France won the World Cup, but now, given his form for PSG, I think he scored 14 goals in his last 12 games for France. He's taken that next step, hasn't he? And is he the best player in the world right now for you?
Oof, he's right up there. He's right up there with
Very easy question, I know.
Yeah, he's right up there with Messi and Haaland. And I think that it's going to become easier and easier as Haaland operates in his role at Man City to forget the rampaging way he was at Borussia Dortmund. He is a more complete player than we're really going to see at City, because in City he's in a system that is going to make him score 100 goals, but isn't going to. It's going to show off his athleticism. It's going to show off his power. But how many times do we see Haaland just break 60 yards running, whether he was running with Reina or Royce or Julian Brandt? He's a special guy. So I think the Haaland Mbappe debate is set up to be very much statistically like the Ronaldo Messi debate, and they fit, except Mbappe's gigantic compared to Leo.
Yeah, it's a great point. Andy, what are your thoughts on that? Because that is the next generation we're seeing now, right? And there's other players who are really, really good, but Mbappe and Haaland are both very good at a very similar age, and it just kind of it's weird the way it works out, right? Just as Messi and Ronaldo are kind of bowing out, and this is going to be their final World Cup, those two are emerging, and it's almost like, all right, you guys can go now. It's your turn.
Yeah, it's nice that Messi and Ronaldo were able to stay healthy and into this, this much latter part of their 30s, and obviously deep into their career. We know that it's probably just a couple, maybe a few years left for each of them. But the fact that they've both avoided one serious injuries to continue to be productive every single week for every single year, and then get to one final World Cup tournament, it is nice to have. It would be even nicer to have Erling Haaland there at the World Cup as well. And so they're all sharing that stage and, truly passing on the baton. But I feel like the game is in pretty good hands going forward with Mbappe and Haaland. And there's obviously a ton of other players who, not just for on the field as well, but it's interesting to see how the top players are becoming, more characters and personalities off the field as well these days. And so those two, obviously talking about Mbappe and Haaland, fit into that perfectly because they are such big personalities. It's interesting to kind of compare those two who, are very, public and outward with everything, compared to Messi, who is very quiet and private and internalized, and Ronaldo, who we know he loves the attention, but is also still a pretty private person, and just kind of the juxtaposition of those two different types of personalities there. And on Mbappe, real quick, 23 years old, 7 World Cup goals already, same as Messi. Already at 23 years old, and obviously Messi's not been a superstar at every single World Cup he's been to. But I don't think it's long, maybe 10 years, before we're talking about, well, was Mbappe as good as Messi? Was Mbappe as good as Ronaldo? He seems to have that kind of talent. And if he can stay healthy and productive for that many years, I think he's going to be right there as well.
This game is threatening to break the world record for bleep housery. There is Oh,
Messi,
Joe,
to tell everyone at home, Messi whipped in a free kick from kind of near the corner flag spot on the right. Didn't really catch out Ochoa, but he just sort of punched the ball straight into the air just to make sure. And in a crowded penalty box, Lisandro Martinez came in with his elbow flailing, shall we say, Nick, and caught Ochoa in the face a little bit, but definitely embellished slightly. And there's another Argentine player just gone down as I'm chatting. Another Mexico player just gone down and bicycle kicked him in the nether regions, it looks like. So there's a lot going on right now.
This game is taking place in Central America. In the earliest round of World Cup qualifying.
A bicycle kick from Lozano into Lisandro Martinez's head. Looks like maybe a bit of retribution there. And Messi's gone down as well, clipped off the ball elsewhere. So, this is kind of the battle that Mexico wanted to make it, I think, right, Nick?
Yes.
Play in 5-4-1, just kind of trying to put Argentina off their stride, exactly like Saudi Arabia did. We talked about that. I mean, Argentina didn't like that at all. So if you're Mexico, you basically were given a blueprint there from Saudi Arabia. This is how to play against this team. And this is not the kind of game Argentina would have wanted after that shocking defeat a few days later to try and react, and it's just they haven't been able to get into the rhythm, right? Because the game's stopping and starting, there's fouls, there's players going down, and yeah, it's chaos at the moment. So
one quick bit of one big thing on the Mbappe thing that I don't want to miss out on. That Griezmann pass for the second goal, the cross, was pure artistry. Pure artistry.
Just when we were worried about, France are obviously missing, Benzema, Ballon d'Or winner, on fire, and Nkunku and Kante and Pogba, how are they going to do? The players on their bench again is just ridiculous, right? And then you have Griezmann, you have obviously Mbappe, Giroud, Dembele. It's a bit of a joke. I think it's unfair a little bit. I don't know what they're doing in France to produce all these players, but yeah, they could definitely share some of their secrets with the rest of the world. Okay, Andrea's got a good comment here. I'm an American married to a Mexican, so of course a nail biter for both here. So Andrea's had a couple of crazy nights, to be fair, because last night wasn't fun viewing. It was more fun for Americans to view than for this particular Englishman and most England fans. But yeah, I mean, especially, let's talk about it a little bit while this game kind of just goes through the motions a little bit. And the USA, Iran set up. We know that the scenario is very simple, right? It is USA win, they go through to the last 16, draw or loss, they're out, Iran goes through. So how are you feeling? What's it? 3.5, 4 days now until that game. So it's already, I'm nervous thinking about that and the emotions that are going to be at play.
Yeah, you're nervous. You're pretty comfortable going through over there in England.
Yeah. What's it? Anything other than a 4-goal or more defeat for England against Wales, and they won't be in the last 16. So I feel this might come back to bite me, and someone can clip this up. But I feel like they're in the last 16. I'm just going to say it.
I do too.
Right.
Oh yeah,
they belong there as well. Like if the way that they were able to take care of Iran in that first game, like that, the disappointment of drawing the U.S. and being outplayed by the U.S. aside. They put down a bit of a marker, I think, to start the tournament, showed what they are capable of. They did not play their best in the second game. I think we will. That's the worst performance we will see from England at this tournament. I feel very comfortable in saying that, and I think England should feel pretty confident about that fact as well going forward because they have much better performances in them. On the U.S., I'm also pretty confident because we have seen this team continue to grow. And it's just been 180 minutes, but we've seen so many big moments and so many challenging moments thrown at them already. And they have responded every single time in a very, very positive manner. They have been the team that has come out on top with, even with 2 draws, it felt like they were the better team in both of those games. And I'm just not used to that with the U.S. men's national team because they have played well and been beaten in the past. They have played poorly and gotten wins that they didn't deserve. It all felt a little bit hollow, but it's starting to feel real. And the way that Greg Berhalter has set this team up so far through 2 games, there's not a single individual who's played who has really disappointed. And I think obviously credit to players for that, but also the coach, because the coach is the one putting them into the lineup and into the roles and positions that they're playing.
Definitely. They're going to be, sorry, Joe, they're going to be cooked at some point for not developing a center forward. And
that's
just
a big difference, right?
That is how they will exit this tournament. Correct.
Yeah. I think about it because I was looking over the Morocco game, which is the last time they scored more than 2 goals against a team of, that wasn't very, very CONCACAF or on the down slack like Honduras. And I was like, oh, who scored that game? All right, it was Weah, that's good. And Aronson, that's good. And then the third one was Wright. And I was like, and then I remembered it was Pulisic letting him take a penalty. And you have to go back pretty far to find a U.S. center forward scoring not against Honduras or Grenada. And again, or Grenada, excuse me. That's also because they haven't got to play everybody. The Nations League has arguably hurt our ability to measure U.S. talent on the international stage as much as it's helped entertainment in Europe.
Yeah, definitely. A decent chance for Argentina there. Cross came in. Lautaro Martinez headed it over, kind of got it all wrong. Bit similar to the Harry Kane one yesterday where he didn't really seem to adjust his head correctly. And we got a substitution for Mexico. Guardado's coming off, grimacing a little bit. it looks like he's got a bit of a knock there, Andy, right? I mean, the legendary Mexico skipper grimacing a little bit. He's worked hard in there for 40 minutes, but Gutierrez is coming on. And yeah, it's tough to see Guardado go out like that, especially when you think, this is obviously his last World Cup, right? So hopefully that's not it for him and he can recover for the final group stage game, or if Mexico go further. Dare I say, they always reach the last 16. We know what happens at that stage, Mexico fans. But that could change things a little bit in midfield. To have a leader and someone who's been in the heat of battle in so many big tournaments and big moments for Mexico over the years, losing him the halfway point, that's not great, is it?
No, it's that sucks to see. Mexico-U.S. rivalry aside, Guardado's big moments against the U.S. aside, to have nearly 200 appearances for your national team the way that he does, I think today was 179. And
Wow.
to be 36 years old and to be at your last World Cup, and your team is, once again, as it has been every World Cup that you've been to. I think he was on the 06 World Cup team as well, so this would be his 5th tournament. They've been competitive, and he's been a massive part of that all along. If that's how it ends for him for Mexico, that's a real bummer. That's not how the game, is supposed to be scripted. So I do hope that he's able to get back at some point during this competition, because there will be a moment that will call for experience. It might be in a penalty shootout, whatever it is. There will be a moment for Andres Guardado. Now Herrera in there still obviously got a ton of experience in central midfield, so I don't think they'll fall apart without him, but it's a big loss.
Oh, yellow card here. Really late tackle. I think it was on Eric Gutierrez, who just come on for Guardado, but
it was Montiel.
Montiel, really late tackle, right? And a good position for Mexico. Oh, my word. He didn't hold back with that one. Went for kind of the block tackle, and Gutierrez just got there before him. But I say,
terrible too. Yeah, terrible spot to do it.
He could have pulled out of that, I feel like, maybe. But
you think?
Yeah,
he had a few chances to do so.
On 3 separate occasions before he clattered him. He could probably think about, do I go through with it? So what, we got 25 yards out, lads? Maybe slightly further?
Yeah, a little more.
Pretty central. Place. Vegas standing over it. Looks like he wants it. Emiliano Martinez is lining up his wall. Got the Mexico fans going crazy in the stadium. And behind Martinez in goal, there is just a wall, a sea of Argentina fans who look pretty nervous right now. I mean,
Andy, not as nervous as Montiel.
Yeah, it's a minute before half time or before we see stoppage time, which is probably going to be another 15 minutes.
We're 134 minutes into Watchalongs the last 2 days. We've not seen a goal yet. What do we do if we get one? Do we celebrate? Do we go? We've not approached this.
There is no plan. There is no plan for this because we haven't got there yet. So let's see what happens. My word. All right, free kicks being lined up. This is a big moment in this game right before half time. Mexico. Here we go. Vega steps up. Curls it. Oh, good save by Martinez. Maybe one for the cameras a little bit, but diving to his right, clutches the ball and gets Argentina started on a bit of a counter-attack with Messi predictably running with about 4 players around him, and they tackle him and it goes out of play. But
that's the one thing I wonder. Will we see you? We always have the opportunity to kind of go through the Google image database after games. And when you Google image search Messi after a game, there's always that overhead shot where there are 5 guys around him. And I just, you don't see that with many other players, if anybody.
No, definitely. It's always the one right that first comes up, and just, if he's had a good game, if that's the picture that comes up right away. So quick question then, because Mexico fans, I'm intrigued to see if there's CONCACAF love for the US and what they're kind of doing with the young generation, and if you'd like to see them go through to the last 16 of the World Cup. I'm just intrigued to see in the comments how you guys are feeling about this US team. Are they likable? It's been a few good battles in Gold Cup and other competitions the last few years, but I feel like now the US and Mexico are probably the closest they've ever been in terms of teams on the pitch. And, the US has worked hard to claw that back and get closer to Mexico over the years. So just maybe let us know how you feel about that. How do you feel, Nick?
I don't know. Have I ever told you guys my Dos Acero story? It has a happy ending. Drove down to Columbus for Mexico versus USA in a World Cup qualifier. Brilliant game. Before the game, what was really cool is I'm in Buffalo, New York, so we brought some Canadian beer with us, and we set up to tailgate. And so many people had traveled, Mexican fans had traveled from around the country to get here, that we were like trading these Canadian beers 2 for 1 for Mexican beers. So suffice it to say, we had an interesting time. And I met this guy, Jesus, and we had a good talk, and we shared a couple of beers. Said good luck, and I went and sat with the American Outlaws, and he sat with the Mexican fans. And after the game, U.S. wins 2-0. Big game for Michael Bradley, if I'm not mistaken. It's pouring rain, and he comes up and he's screaming. And I'm like, at first, really startled, screaming at me from 50 yards away. And you remember my name was Nick. And I went to see him, and he goes, and I go, what? He goes, and we jersey swapped in Columbus Crew Stadium. And I still talk to him before every U.S. game on Facebook. So I think there's a lot more respect between the nations for all but the 2 days they meet every other year. If this wasn't Messi's potential career on the other side, I'm probably rooting for Mexico.
Yeah, well, that's an amazing story, and that just shows the power of football, right? Even huge rivals like that can come together and enjoy the beautiful game together. Yeah, Hunter's out for that. You can tell that for sure.
Let's get addresses.
Yeah. And yeah, I think there's a lot of positivity, right? Like, yes, to do that. And, I'll be cheering for the USA. I've got some really positive comments there. So that's nice to see, I think, before, I'm trying to figure out if the US can play Mexico at this World Cup and what stage that would be. Let's see if it would be that friendly around a potential knockout stage game, if that is the case. But yeah, it's interesting, right? In terms of this game, we saw the free kick opportunity there. That is the kind of thing that Mexico's playing for, right, Andy? It's a counter-attack. It's to win a free kick in a dangerous area, either put it in the top corner like Vega nearly did, or find the big men and score from a set piece. That is exactly the game plan here, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm looking at the bracket here as well to answer your wondering question there, Joe. So if the U.S. finishes second, Mexico wins their group, they could meet in the quarterfinals.
Oh, nice.
Assuming both of them were to advance, and if the U.S. wins their group and Mexico finishes runners-up, they would also then potentially play in the quarterfinals as well. So not too late. It's within the realm of possibilities, I would say.
Oh, that'd be something.
Joe, how much rotation do you expect from England for their game against Wales?
Good question. They're still talking that we want to win the group, so I think they're going to play pretty much close to full strength. I think, obviously, Phil Foden not playing against the US was a huge talking point here. Much the same as why Gio Reyna didn't play in the first game and only played a few minutes against England. So I think he'll play, not because Southgate just listens to the media, but I just think it's probably his turn, given how Mason Mount and Sterling played in particular. So yeah, I think you'll probably see 3 or 4, maybe Kyle Walker coming in at right back. I thought Trippier looked a little bit off it. I think the centre backs will probably stay the same. They're kind of building a nice partnership, Stones and Maguire. And then
Grealish, maybe
Grealish. I think Henderson might come in as well. Jude Bellingham looked a little bit like the rigors of the first game of being a first ever World Cup caught up with him. And
I think Tyler Adams also returned him from his pocket this morning as well.
When he
after the game.
Wallet, keys, phone.
Yeah.
Oh, Jude, there you are.
Jude.
Exactly. Yeah, there he is. So I think to answer your question, I think there'll be changes, but I wouldn't be worried from a US perspective that England aren't going to take it seriously. Like I said, they know anything other than a 4-goal loss. They can lose by 3 and still qualify for the last 16. But I'd be very surprised if Southgate doesn't go with a very strong team. And the scenario is so crazy, right? Up at Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com, we have the latest tables on every group, how things can play out. And there's some really interesting scenarios in that Group B in particular with the US and Iran. If they draw, correct me if I'm wrong, if USA and Iran ends in a draw and Wales beat England, then Wales are in the last 16. So they still have something to play for as well. So,
Group A is really interesting too. I think we all kind of had thought it would be if you finish second, you face Senegal or the Netherlands, and that is not necessarily the case here. Ecuador has been pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say it's half time. Argentina against Mexico, 0-0. So far, so good for Mexico, I think, and so far, not so good for Argentina. Yeah, to start the first half, a couple of set piece opportunities for either team. Messi nearly catching out Ochoa. At the other end, really just Vega's free kick opportunity that was saved decently by Emiliano Martinez. But aside from that, guys, just a real battle, right? I mean, what are we making of this first half here? This is, yeah, it's been tighter than we even expected, I think.
One shot for Argentina, 3 for Mexico at half, by the way.
Yeah, and Mexico's have been largely from distance too. What I'm making is I'm starting to get antsy, and I want to like call up Scaloni to have him explain to me. We haven't seen Angel Correa or even more so Paulo Dybala in the entire tournament. These are some players. I don't know if they're carrying injuries. I don't know about it. You know, it's hard to keep track of all 32 teams, but they're in the squad, and I have to think we'll see a more opened up Argentina in the second half going for it, because if they don't pick up a win here, a point is important, but the difference between a draw and a loss, correct me if I'm wrong, is marginal at best, with Poland up next.
Yeah,
exactly. You'd have a point. Mexico would have 2 going to Saudi Arabia. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Poland would just need to hang out basically to get by.
It'd be very similar to the US and England group, right? In terms of the scenarios there. So, Mark Eric Lane asked quite simply, where is Messi? Bit of trolling there, maybe a little bit, but
no, I mean, he was not really around.
Ball, right? He hardly touched the ball. So
27 touches.
Yeah.
I mean, Tata Martino, like we said it before, he gets a lot of stick for some of these defensive tactics, but in a situation like this, he's getting it pretty spot on. And we spoke about it before. The game against Poland, they were unlucky. If they had a finisher, they would have won that game quite comfortably. So, yeah, it's working. Mexico, this is working. And I think hats off to CONCACAF. Costa Rica aside, which can happen against Spain, but Canada dominated Belgium. Should have won that game. Excited to see them play tomorrow against Croatia, by the way. And then USA dominating England for large spells. And then Mexico really taking it. Well, not taking it, but just kind of handling Argentina very, very comfortably, right, Andy? So big couple of days for CONCACAF.
Yeah, and not to oversimplify it, because all 3 teams have played well, varying degrees of good at various points in their game so far, but they're all kind of doing it in similar ways as well. And they're outworking the better teams that they have faced. Canada against Belgium, completely outworked them. US against England, completely outworked them. We're seeing Mexico do the same, even without much of the ball and even without really creating much. They are giving Argentina nothing. So yeah, we defensively, a lot of the smaller teams, I think, have figured something out, that if we apply that little bit of extra effort and put that energy into pressing the ball, we can break up play. And I think it's also worth remembering 5 substitutions available means that you can you can tell guys, press more, be more aggressive with it, because you can bring 2 more of them off and bring on 2 more sets of fresh legs. And so I think some of the teams that have not smarter managers, but more clever or more creative managers who are and head coaches who are willing to try different things and look for those little advantages within the situation that is the schedule of the World Cup, and also the rule changes now as well. We're seeing a lot of those teams have success.
Nick, obviously, kind of the comments coming up here, Mexico is holding Argentina down, and the other one there saying about Messi, put him in the middle. Is the positioning of Messi the problem here? Is it we're seeing him pop up a lot out wide or deep to try and get the ball for his own centre-backs and try and get Argentina on the front foot? But really, you just want him to stay up the pitch, right? And just kind of rely on Argentina's midfielders to get past Mexico and get him the ball. But that isn't happening. So I guess that's why he's drifting all over the place to try and get involved. I mean, what can they do? Who can they bring anybody else up there, really? I mean, Papu Gomez, Julian Alvarez. I mean, I don't know. I'm looking at, they've got to do something, right? That was nowhere near good enough if you're Argentine fans. And in the comments, let us know. What do Argentina need to do, in your opinion?
I think Scaloni was more worried about Mexico's attack than we realized. And I would take Montiel out. I would look at the midfield. Doesn't have a lot of enablers. I like Alexis McAllister a lot. I think they're asking a lot of him in the role that he's in right now. Maybe if he's central as a playmaker. Martinez has been disappointing in this game as well. And I would say, honestly, Martinez and Messi were the two ghosts there. And just because I tell you, I think the guy's the greatest player of all time doesn't mean he has a bad 45 minutes. He was on the ball once or twice, and it was until that very last moment that they really saw a moment where he drove towards the center of the pitch, a couple quick interchanges, and they won a corner kick out of it. That's Argentina at its best. That's what we need to see more of. And the 5-man midfield of Mexico has just chewed up space, and huge one for Martina. I think that half is a huge win for him.
Andy, what do we want to see from Mexico then? Because like Nick has just mentioned, game plan has been executed perfectly so far. So what do we want to see from Mexico to change it up? Do they need to change it up, or just keep doing what they're doing? Or at some point, do they need to maybe be slightly more adventurous, or maybe bring on a Raul Jimenez to give them something a bit different up top? Or is it just kind of like the US yesterday, just keep doing what you're doing until you kind of run yourself into the ground, and then we'll rotate a few guys in?
Yeah, I think it's very much going to be a situation where Mexico are going to kind of mirror whatever Argentina are going to do in this game. Once, and probably McAllister will be one of the first ones that'll come off, because they do need to get some more creativity. Maybe one of the defensive midfielders there in the middle as well. But I think Mexico are going to continue to try to neutralize what Argentina are looking to do. And obviously, who's more familiar and knows more about what Argentina want to try to do than Tata, the man who's in charge of Mexico, right? So it feels like they've got pretty good insight into that team and the way that they want to play and everything. They've been set up absolutely perfectly. And if we learned anything from that first half, it's that there are plenty of opportunities to counter against this Argentina team, and Mexico have the exact perfect personnel on the field to do it. So I imagine it looks pretty similar, because I think a draw is pretty okay for Mexico here, because you look at their remaining game and the fact that they have Saudi Arabia. I think they feel very confident with that. And I think they know if they can get a draw here, they're finishing on 5 points. And correct me if I'm wrong, Poland and Argentina, because they play each other, both of them can't get to 5 points. Mexico would go through.
Exactly. Perfect tournament experience management here, right, Nick? But go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, thinking about this a little bit more and going back to the game against Poland, and think about the fact that they're not playing Edson Alvarez. Tata Martino sees this, I think, as a game he's just going to try and muscle out a point and then count on beating Saudi Arabia. And and I'm sure he's going into halftime saying, if you see the opportunity, take it. If you can get that goal, take it. We'd love to win this. But the plan was to make sure we beat Saudi Arabia and didn't lose the other 2 games. And frankly, if there would be a segment of U.S. fans who would hate this, but if that was Greg Berhalter's philosophy, was to just not lose the England game and win the other 2, I would have accepted that as well. Or I'm sorry, compete in the other 2. So I think if that's the plan, and it would explain the lineup a lot, I think. It would really explain what they did with the 5 in the midfield and guys who are just going to punch you in the spine for 90 minutes.
Got some great comments coming in. A lot of Kevin Chavez has given it the big one for Mexico in the comments section there. A lot of love for Messi and Argentina. And let's get some score predictions for people out there. How do you think this is going to play out in the second half? There's some comments as well. Argentina is overrated from Nesta. I mean, Andy, it's kind of difficult to argue with that given their first 135 minutes plus at the tournament so far. Were we maybe a little bit too high on Argentina, given they have been really good the last couple of years, really. So it can happen to teams, though, can't it? They turn up at tournaments and then just totally flame out, and it doesn't click for whatever reason. But something drastic is going to have to happen in this 45 minutes, because, as we said, you said it, a draw really isn't enough for them. It keeps them in it, but really they need more than that.
Yeah, they've not looked too bothered by too much of the whole World Cup that's going on around them through a game and a half.
Someone tell them it's actually kicked off. They're in Qatar. They're playing in the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a very unique situation in the way that this World Cup is set up. When it is the lack of a lead up to it and everything. So there are a lot of factors that are in play, and I'm sure if they go out in the group stage and you ask every player on the team what was the number one thing, you might get 26 different answers, and it'd be 26 different real factors that played into, but that also every other team at this tournament has had to deal with. I've just not seen urgency from them, and I think I've used that word a few times so far since we started the watch along. But they have to be urgent. They have to win this game, and they're not playing like a team that has to. They're playing like the team that a draw would not only be fine, but would be the preferred result at this point. Just the the lack of energy that they're showing, and they're going to have to take chances in the second half, and I think that sets up pretty poorly because Mexico are then going to have those opportunities on the counter that they are just sitting around and being very patient and waiting for.
I tell you what, there's a lot of confident Mexico and Argentina fans, but on both sides of it. We've got 10-0, 3-0 score predictions, a lot of 2-0 Argentina, which I can actually see. I think once they get one, then Mexico will kind of come out and try and get something and then could get hit on the counter late. But Siraj here, Argentina are choking at the World Cup. There is no creativity or flair. I mean,
it's not
Nick,
wrong.
that again is kind of like you've got Messi in the team and almost like they're passing the buck to him, right? But you've got some incredible attacking players there. I think I saw another comment with a suggestion for the second half as well, saying, to bring on, I'm trying to find the comment here, but it was about moving Messi and Di Maria more centrally and kind of bringing on someone like Dybala. But I mean,
they need a third central midfielder, to me, somebody who's going to help them win the ball back, retain it, and then build from there. And that's the issue because Rodriguez and DePaul, way too defensive in the middle. I think one of them has to come off for a more attacking midfielder, and then probably, I guess McAllister could slide inside central as well. And so you only have to make one change to get there, but it has to come in central midfield to me.
Yeah, guys, I think.
Go ahead, Nick.
I did want to. I looked into it because I wanted to see. Are we over hyping the Copa America? Or did we forget something? We did not. We did not. Argentina did not lose. Period. Argentina drew Brazil in Brazil. They only had to. They had Brazil had 45 points in qualifying. Argentina had 39. Third place was Uruguay with 28. And Argentina and Brazil didn't even play their last game. They were 11 points clear. And in a great, everybody, CONMEBOL is impossible. It is so hard to only have 4.5 spots. Colombia didn't make it even to a playoff. Chile was way out of it. Miguel Almiron and Paraguay, way out of it. So I think they are that good. I think the struggle is they lost that first game. And if they win that first game, I don't know that you see Mexico taking this tack today.
Yeah.
And this is completely suitable. We drew a game. We're going to drew another. And then if we can't beat Saudi Arabia, shame on us.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. The Straight G Turo has a great point as well. 2014 was Argentina's best chance to win it, and they didn't. Did you see Kevin De Bruyne's comments as well today?
It was crazy, yeah.
Yeah, he was like, 2018, that was when we should have really won it. And, our team is aging and we've lost some key players and key. He's almost basically given up for this tournament. It was really, really weird.
John Herdman will do that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Canada, my word.
How about his comments, by the way?
Oh, yeah. He tells it how it is.
Things I wouldn't have said.
Yeah, he's not messing around. But I mean, the Straight G Turo, to go on his comment there, 2014, that was when Argentina should have won it, right? Obviously, lost to Germany in extra time and Higuain's misses and blah, blah, blah. But that just really, sometimes when you look back in football history and you kind of figure out how did they not win it or look at those big moments, it's weird. Football is such a weird sport, and I feel like right now they are just trying to grind every ounce of quality out of Messi, Di Maria, Otamendi, and maybe it is just a step too far for them. I don't know. Andy, go ahead.
We've seen this from Argentina before. I looked up the 2014 World Cup final because I remembered it being quite a lopsided game and a shock that it got to extra time and needed all the drama. Argentina didn't have a single shot on target in that game in 120 minutes, not a single one. And so, we have seen them in big moments, and obviously the World Cup final is a much bigger moment than game 1 or 2 of the group stage, but we have seen this from them before. So it's not entirely surprising. And that wasn't a great Argentina team either. Like, obviously, Messi, that was the period that Messi was at his very best for Barcelona and also for Argentina on his own. He was doing everything for those teams. And I kind of feel like if the midfield that's around now, if he had that midfield in 2014, you probably can't say, oh, they walked through that tournament. But they had a lot of experience and quality at the back at that time. And I just don't think they have that right now. And maybe that's why they're a little bit more conservative is the right word, but they're certainly not taking chances, and they're not opening themselves up with that back line with Martinez and Otamendi back there.
Yeah, there was another great comment from Nesta, which said Lo Celso out really hurts Argentina. And I know he might not have had the best career at Tottenham in the Premier League, but anybody who's watched Argentina closely the last few years, he is kind of that facilitator that will get the ball turned, give it to Messi. And that's what we were talking about, right, Nick? There's no one really feeding him and his brilliance, and that's why he's drifting deeper and deeper. And yeah, that was a really big injury omission and a real big shame for Argentina that a key man in their success recently is missing for this tournament. And Rodrigo de Paul, for all his quality, just doesn't seem to be filling that gap well at all.
Yeah, a couple guys that just haven't done enough to get themselves into the squad as well. Lanzini, maybe he helps a little bit in terms of taking some of the pressure off of Messi to perform. I'll be looking at whether they inject some speed as well. One stat that's kind of blowing my mind from the first half, 10 touches total for Lautaro Martinez. And you have to wonder, 1 of 4 passing, was he shook by that off stuff, the 4 offsides, and did that do a number on his confidence?
He had 5 touches 40 minutes into the game. He doubled his touches in the final 5 minutes of the first half. And so that's how isolated and just completely uninvolved he was. I was kind of watching that. I like that you noticed it too, Nick.
Oh, man. Some of the stats, though, about that first half. I mean, Argentina had 67% of the possession, but their expected goals was 0.04, and Mexico's was 0.24. So Mexico, even with far less possession, more dangerous. Obviously, the free kick was the big one there, but yeah, it's just not been great.
Funny you mentioned Raul Jimenez earlier, because this is every Wolves game this year. This is there's
3-5-2 as well for a long time. Wolves, this is exactly here come up Mexico on the counter, cutting inside, and I think it was Lozano had a shot blocked, but exactly the kind of situation. Tata's just strolling down the touchline like he's going for a walk in the park on a Sunday, hands in his pockets, and the attack comes to nothing in the end. But yeah, this is Mexico, right? This is what they're doing for the entire game.
Joe, this is Mexico doing their very best Mexico away game. And it's just a matter of if they're going to get the goal. Just like yesterday was the very best U.S. game against a team that's better without the finish. It's just a matter of, we've seen it so many times. Something we talked about so much last season when Man City didn't have Haaland. Having that hitman who's going to finish your goal, finish your chances is invaluable. And you can't just make them up, and you can't just turn somebody into it. You're not going to, except Jamie Vardy and maybe Kiefer Moore, you're not going to just find these guys toiling away in the 7th division. There is just, it's different. What do you guys say over there? Different gravy. That's what it is when it comes to these center forwards.
That is very true. That's a very good point. And for anybody joining us after halftime who wants to watch the game along with us, head over to Peacock at Telemundo, pull up a stream in Spanish in the USA. You can watch on our NBC family of channels. And in English, you can watch on Fox on their platforms as well. So just a reminder there, pull up that stream, mute it. Obviously, have us on full volume, and you can ask us whatever you want during the game, and we'll give you our expert analysis, right, Andy? That's what we're here for. So, yeah, let's Andrea, if this ends in a draw, is Argentina done? Good question. Just to remind everyone, they'll be okay if it's a draw, but if they lose, they are out of the World Cup after 2 games. So one of the favourites to win it all will be eliminated after 2 games. Cannot highlight that enough. This is a huge, huge 45 minutes for Argentina, and there's just something in the air, right, Andy? The bit of a whiff here of an upset. But as Messi strides towards goal for the first time and gets sived down 25 yards out, and a yellow card is issued, Di Maria is giving the thumbs up to the referee. I think it's a substitute, isn't it? Eric Gutierrez, yellow card there, and this is Messi territory right here.
This is his home.
This is it, right?
This might be the one look that he gets all game. The way that way that Argentina have played and set up, and the way that Mexico have defended, he might not get a better one than this.
Oh, and he earned it. He, I think he takes a dip here. Let's see. Yeah, he knows how to click his heels together at the right time when it's obscured by because that's, I mean, it's a foul in the sense that he had been grabbed a couple times beforehand, but when he hit the deck, that was as earned as Ronaldo's penalty the other day. If we're comparing the two,
Oh my! I don't think we should do that.
well, it went well. I thought it went well. People liked it.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Pro or relegation in a USA. Let's talk about that.
Ronaldo, Messi, Pro Real, all very, very good topics to open that can of worms on, right?
Yeah.
All right, Messi stepping up. The wall was being set. A huge amount of Argentine fans behind this one goal he's shooting towards. I always wonder, does that help or hinder you if you're a player? But anyway,
I like to think that Alexis McAllister or someone from Argentina is just standing in front of the wall saying to them, that's Messi, right?
He gave him the big build-up and he clipped it over so harmlessly, and he looks a bit disgusted with himself as well.
The ball was defective.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not. No, that is not his moment. That's terrible. Terribly sorry. Wow. Even the wall was like, come on, man, you got to do better than that. All right, so
anticlimactic.
Very much so. What do we got here? 35, 40 minutes to go. Hi, Avnish. Thanks for joining us. I'll tell you what we're going to do. Let us know where in the world you are watching this stream from. Always love to see that. Whenever we do one of these watch-alongs, we have people across Mexico, the US, obviously of NBC, some of our main territories that we broadcast in, but all over the world as well. That's the beauty of doing this. So we love to get together, have a drink, have a few laughs. It reminds me of Die Hard there, trying to say that. A few laughs.
Look, you brought out the American accent.
Yeah, I know, right? You rarely get to see that. All right, Amy's in Illinois. We got Clifton in New Jersey. Hunters in Mammoth ski area. Cameron in Florida. We got
Botswana,
Norway, Illinois. In Washington, the state or Washington, D.C.? I want to know that. Canada, Sophia's in Texas. Wow. Cabo, Texas, Arizona. Some destinations that I can't read out. Jamaica, Boston, California. That's where Pierre is. Jaro's in New Jersey. Leo in Arizona. Wow. Washington, D.C. as well in the house. Miami is in the house. Yeah, we got... Well, thanks so much for joining us, wherever you're joining us from. That is a wide array of destinations there. Go ahead, Nick.
No, I don't think I'll have a time to mention this again because this game is still waiting to fire forward for us. But as an Italian American whose first love was the Italian national team, it is weird to think if they make the next one, it'll be 12 years between World Cups for Italy. Occurred to me. Yeah, it's just weird. So many big... Chile has missed 2 in a row too, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to happen again. We are at the age where you're not going to see really big teams miss ever again because the tournament's expanding.
Yeah, 48 teams, right, for the next tournament in the US. So be a totally different proposition there. Just looking through where everyone's watching from, I'm really intrigued to see this as well. This is we got John Cahill in Dublin. Went there recently. John, great city. I definitely had a few pints of Guinness and then the rest there as well. So I had a great time there. Thanks for joining us. Got Dubai, Dallas, Florida, New Jersey, El Paso, Kenya, Denver. Adonis is in Honduras. Great name as well, by the way. Nigeria, Jamaica, Toronto, Pennsylvania, Zambia, South Carolina, Colombia, San Francisco, Atlanta, Clearwater, Florida, Indonesia. Lads, we are worldwide here. Oregon,
El Heart of Rock and Roll is still beating.
Guyana, Antarctica. Antarctica? I don't know. That might be banter.
I'm going to need a picture.
Yeah, we're going to need, go outside and take a picture.
With a polar bear, please.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's the only way you can prove it, I'm afraid. Kentucky's in.
Game's getting good.
Game's
Yeah.
getting good now. So wherever in the world, thanks for joining us. The game is getting good. Thanks for watching along. Mexico are okay on the break, right, Andy? They're just trying to release some pressure, but Argentina are cranking through the gears now.
Yeah, Mexico's still defending really, really hard, and they're making Mexico work just to get into the final third. And then once they do, that 5-man back line is truly a 5-man back line back there with three central midfielders sitting very deep. And so there's a lot of bodies in there, but they are starting to find a little bit of space. They're playing a little bit quicker, I think, and they're playing in combinations as well. And so Mexico have so many numbers back. One, you got to play quick, but two, you got to move the ball. And then move away to receive the next pass very quickly. And that's what they're starting to do. They found a little bit of space on the right side, but it's really just amounting to crosses at this point. I don't think that's quite what you want to do if you're Argentina.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. It's not like you got Giroud or Mbappe in the box there to aim for, and they're going to finish it off. So,
well, they are getting Di Maria wider, which I think is going to help. If you either got to play him like they were saying, I guess maybe work him inside. Somebody said at halftime to try and get him the ball more, or you got to put him way wider because his service is impeccable. They are also obviously have had a directive to go ahead and try and take some guys 1v1 because the dribbling has been much more aggressive in this half.
100%. Taking more risks now. It's like, okay, we're in the game, 45 minutes. Let's go for it now. We know what we have to do. Keila Diaz, Vamos Mexico. I think that's something we can kind of all echo. I think all Mexico fans watching this will be very, very happy with this display. Yes, it's defensive, but what else are you going to do against Argentina right now? There's clearly on paper, Mexico are the underdogs in this, right? But
that's an interesting sub
there.
It is. So they get more attacking, but they do it with a guy who's got 5 caps to his name. I mean, there's probably a few names on the roster there that you might have thought would come off first, but a very, very big possible moment for Enzo Fernandez here.
Absolutely. Highly rated, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Massive.
Well, they brought him and Almada, who's 21 and with Atlanta, and McAllister starting here with 8 caps too. So Scaloni feels like he's got something there, but that is pretty surprising when you look at Papu Gomez on the bench, you look at Paredes on the bench. There's experience. I'm not saying they're like for like, and even Angel Correa, and of course Dybala.
Oh yeah, just a few decent players there, right? But yeah, this is getting very tense now. Just over 30 minutes to go for Argentina to try and find the goal they desperately need. But Mexico, again, they're working hard on the counter. They're a threat. And yeah, this is so intriguing now. I said this last night when we did this for England USA. This is the pivotal stage of the game, right? Seeing who's going to stick or twist, who's going for it. But Argentina already been much better in the second half.
This is for all intents and purposes could be the end of Messi internationally. Like could be a historic moment, like whatever comes next. So and the fact that the intensity of the game and the quality of the game is starting to ramp up a little bit to match what the moment is. Hopefully that's a good sign of what's to come in the final 30 minutes.
Don't forget, Tata managed this team, and he managed Messi for club and country. Yep. So the idea here is not really a surprise that he would. I'm not really surprised, but it's not really a surprise that it would work, whatever his idea was going to be.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, good comment there on the screen. Mexico's defending is good. I mean, you can't fault that, and it's a great.
I'd say it's great.
Yeah, it's been really, really solid, and obviously different to the Poland game a little bit. They were much more on the front foot, obviously, but good ball whipped in from the right here by Vega to be attacked, and Argentina just knock it clear. But that was
one of the most satisfying looking free kicks that I've ever seen. The angle of that one was incredible.
How do we say it over here? Plenty of swaz on that ball. Plenty of swaz on that. That was perfect. The arc of that was absolutely mesmeric. And yeah, just trying to see where Messi is kind of picking up the ball here. How deep is he dropping? He's basically in line with his own centre-backs to get on the ball there on the halfway line. You need to be further up the pitch, surely. Argentina fans watching this, what are you guys thinking? I mean, this is... You must be absolutely all over the place in tatters at the moment because... this is not playing out how we thought it would at all. I thought it really would see a big reaction here from Argentina. Just haven't seen it. In the second half, they've been better, but it's kind of too little too late. Like Mexico has sat in quite nicely into this defensive rhythm and system right now. They're not, haven't really had to chase it out, have they?
Exactly. Yeah. They don't have to shift into defending to hold on to this. They just have to continue doing what they're doing and what they have clearly been working on all week. So, obviously a goal changes things, but like this is setting up so perfectly for Mexico right now.
It's Mourinho's Chelsea in a lot of ways. I mean, I know that they don't have the forwards that they did, but there is a lot of go ahead. You think you're winning because you have all the ball? That's cool because you're not. You got to score.
There are several buses parked out there right now.
Yeah, and it's starting to get really one-on-one for Argentina as well. It's whoever's on the ball is trying to go past 1 and 2 and 3 players and just make, a moment of magic. I think we expect that from Messi, but I don't know if Alexis McAllister trying to dribble through the midfield and defense of Mexico is what you want to see.
Yeah. It's difficult, right, Nick? What do you think?
Well, I just think, Messi, and again, a lot of times when we're judged to be critical of Ronaldo when we talk about him at Man United, but a lot of it is that he's 37 years old. You couldn't do this with Messi 4 years ago, but he's 35 now. He's still quick and he can do it in bursts, but you can't just say, here, go dribble everybody 5 times and one of them will work. He's got to pick his spots. And they're not better with him off the pitch. They're not one of those teams. So this is kind of what you're stuck with. One of the greatest player to play all time on the tail end. And frankly, I think that's one of the reasons that he's going to retire from international football is he's not going to work as a 10-minute guy. He has to be out there the whole game waiting for his spot.
Absolutely. It's spot on. I mean, I'm looking at who's going to come in now. And for Mexico, what do you do here, Andy?
Lautero's coming out.
What's the play? Oh, okay.
Well,
let's
see what they're doing first.
Okay. Lautero's coming out. Julian Alvarez is coming on. Man City, who's always looks sharp whenever he's come in for early Haaland.
That makes sense to me. He's going to be a lot more direct than Lautaro was. He's going to look to get in between center backs, in between center back and fullback, and make some runs in behind. We've seen him. Obviously in limited minutes, given what Haaland is doing for Man City, but we've seen him come in and just inject a ton of energy into that Manchester City team. And I think above all else right now, and maybe a little size and some physical presence in the penalty area, a little bit of nose for the ball for some of these crosses as well. I think that's the greatest thing that he brings to this team at this moment.
Definitely. Some people in the comments calling for Edson Alvarez to come on. Do we think that'd be a smart move for Mexico? Maybe just to calm things down a little. He didn't have a great game against Poland, from what I remember. He's usually so good on the ball when he kind of.
Yeah.
I just noticed he gave it away a few times, which was really noticeable for him because usually he's that guy who can just hold it, piece it together, and always very calm and composed. So, maybe
I think they're saving him. I really do. I think they don't want to put him in. He's part of the plan for Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I think so.
He did it. I told you.
Wow. There we go. Lionel Messi, low drilled shot from the edge of the box. He's gone absolutely crazy. This is his moment.
I love when an artist will give you one of those low shots because we're so used to upper 90, and I think the keepers are too, and it shouldn't work, but it does. Man, that game needed that. For 27 minutes, we can watch real soccer now, I think.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, what a shame on us for doubting that he would do it.
Yeah, we've been saying it the whole game, right? You just need to get him further forward. And that's what they've done. They've been able to kind of advance. And like we said, the dribbles, the one-on-ones, it's been coming. And what a moment for those Argentines.
This is emotional from him right now. This is the second game of the group stage, guys, and he is responding like that.
This he has there, though. How do you leave him with 10 yards of space when he gets up the ball? And then Hector Herrera just tries to close him down, but just realizes he's a couple of yards away, and you can't give Messi that kind of time. And he's
wheeling away in celebration before Ochoa finishes his dive.
Perfect placement, right? He knew. He's done that a million times, and look at his just focus on the ball the whole time. And just amazing scenes. Argentina won, Mexico 0, 25 minutes to go. This is what it's all about, right, gents?
Yeah. I mean, would you guys go so far as to say the lead is undeserved at this point? Because they have been better to start the second half.
I don't know, Andy. Here's what I would say. It does feel to me like a Barca versus Atletico Madrid game from 6 years ago, where I think both teams were trying to do a certain thing, and I don't know. I feel like Mexico undeserved. Argentina had to work for that, is what I'm saying. Do I think they've been the better team? No, but they had to work for every bit of getting Messi that shot.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's very even. I think neither team really deserves to be ahead right now. I think it is kind of a tie game. But yeah, what Mexico have responded by bringing Raul Jimenez on, and I think I saw another sub come on as well. Is it Antuna who came on as well? So they made a couple of attacking changes there, but now Argentina is starting to play a bit more freedom. Yeah, and I mean, where does this kind of leave Mexico then? There'll be 1 point after 2 games, and always kind of the danger, right? Playing for a draw in this game.
Yeah, where does it leave them for the next 25 minutes right now? Like, this is we keep talking with the US, and maybe it's just something that I keep saying, but the challenges and the different situations that get thrown at you in a tournament like this is I mean, that's a huge blow to Mexico, as well as they have played and the way that they set up. They're not built to come out and try and chase a game from behind right now. So it's going to have to, Tata's going to have to really take apart the system that he's been playing from the start.
Yeah, do you know the flip side is, though, that Argentina hasn't had to defend for about 65 minutes, and all of a sudden they will, because Mexico is going to pressure it. It's always weird to me when a game phase kind of shifts like this and someone goes into it, the opportunity, because what do they always say? That the most dangerous time is to get scored on is right after you've scored. That's what coaches like to tell you. I don't always know that that's true, but it's at least lived long enough in the memory to become a maxim.
Yeah, absolutely. This is he's had some great moments over the years, but that felt like one of the biggest moments for Lionel Messi in an Argentine jersey, especially the way that they're going right now, and this is his final World Cup. Send us your comments in the section, how kind of maybe your reaction to this display from Argentina and Messi, and I guess, or Mexico having a good go here though, right? They're pouring forward Lozano from Jimenez. They're going wide again.
Anything can happen.
Yeah. Argentina now, they've just brought on all those attacking players, right? Literally just before Messi scored. And now they've got to try and get back into a more defensive shape. And Mexico have shown more intent in the last 3 minutes than they have in the entire game so far. So this is going to be a fun last 20 minutes. So everyone watching, thanks so much for watching along with us. Just a reminder, in the USA, you can watch this game in Spanish on Telemundo and on Peacock. Get a Peacock stream up, mute that, listen to us. We will obviously answer all your questions. And you can watch in English on Fox as well in the USA. So, okay, a lot of good questions coming in. Mexico can still win. That's Mexico. Yeah, I think there's still Mexico fans are feeling quite positive that now they're just going to go for it. But but now Argentina are making a few subs, right? McAllister and Di Maria are both coming off.
Di Maria comes away with the assist on Messi's goal, which is going to be easy to forget because we watched him kind of dance a little bit. I don't know, guys. I think, again, when I say anything can happen, either team can still score 3 goals in this game.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Expected goals for Argentina jumped to 0.15. So that's what happens when you hit a worm burner through traffic.
Oh, yeah. This is incredible. This is a big moment in the World Cup, because if Argentina were to somehow lost this game, then you lose a huge amount from the tournament. So this is big for this World Cup, right, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we struggle to zoom out and see the bigger picture because we're so deep into what's happening literally right in front of us. But I think now we do need to zoom in, because all the conversation is Messi, career, legacy, all those things. As Argentina almost got a second one there, but this World Cup is better for Argentina being in it. This World Cup is better for Lionel Messi being in it until the latter stages. And so, I've come to enjoy this particular Mexico team a good bit, like I think Nick was saying earlier in the game. but I want Messi in the World Cup more than I want to see Mexico continue to progress in their project.
Absolutely. And Molina just sliced an effort wide, a good move down the left from Argentina, picked him out. And yeah, it was, I don't know, Nick, this is getting interesting now because Mexico are pouring forward. And I don't know. It's just, this is it, right? This is it. They've got to hold on here, Argentina.
It is in a moment. I think it's good to take a moment to kind of celebrate a player who also was kind of asked to respond today, and that's Otamendi's been very, very good. He's had, and granted, he's a player you want to be passing the ball when he's in possession. That's one of the reasons he worked so well at Man City. But 84 touches, 5 passes into the final third, and he has won 10 of 12 duels at center back. It doesn't feel like he would have had that many, but that's what Fatmav's telling me. So, but he has done well, and it's going to be interesting to see. They've pulled Vega up. They have Chucky Lozano up there, and Raul Jimenez and Uriel Antuna, and this is geared up for us to see racing back and forth after 65 minutes of being parked in the same section.
Yeah, absolutely. Question here from Andrea: If Mexico loses, are they done, or can they win with a win with Saudi Arabia? So they're not done if they lose here, but obviously then they'd have to beat Saudi Arabia. And then, right, what the scenario would be, depending on what happens in the Argentina-Poland game, the final game of the group stage, because Poland are on 4 points. If Mexico wins the last one, they'll be on 4 points. And then it would come down to goal difference, right? It would come down to who has the better goal difference between Poland and Mexico. If Argentina beat Poland,
group points, group goal difference, group goals scored, and then you get to head-to-head.
Okay, so here comes Mexico on the counter a little bit, and game's becoming a lot stretch. But head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com. We'll have all the latest. We've got the tiebreaker rules. We've got the table standings for all the groups. So that's going to be a spot for the next few days to check out what's going on across the World Cup as these. I love these second group stage games, right? The jeopardy is incredible. It just changes within a few minutes.
Let's talk about that really quick, because at the next World Cup, this is going to be the final group game. It's going to be those 3-team groups as the tournament expands to 48, and there's going to be 16 groups of 3, and so just 2 games. And so it goes into the knockout rounds a little bit quicker. I think in theory, it should make the World Cup 100 times better, because you're right, Joe. These second games, sometimes based on the matchups, but just sometimes based on the situations and what's at stake, do turn out to be the good ones. And then you've got so many games at the end that are dead rubbers, and they just have to be played. So you get to the knockout rounds a little bit quicker. I'm very excited for that. This has the intensity that it does feel like, this game would decide if it was the next World Cup, who's going to go through.
Definitely. And Tony Roberts there saying we will beat Saudi Arabia very, very easy. Trust me. So Mexico fans may be feeling a little bit confident. This was always going to be a long shot, wasn't it, for them against Argentina? A little bit. And yeah, we got Jeff. Who do we have going all the way to the finals? Well, Andy, your shout for Argentina is looking a bit better now, right? But
yeah,
I had Brazil and England, so I'm feeling good about one of those right now. And I think everyone can guess which one. But
England, obviously.
Not after last night. Chance.
I'm rewatching this video because I'm the guy who's writing the recap for this game on soccer.nbcsports.com. Messi takes 1 touch before hitting that. That's how well Mexico was keeping control of this game. Is in Messi's head, it was like, if I get a chance, I'm shooting. And he takes it down with his left foot peg and just crushes it low into the corner. It was going to take a moment like that, and I hope we can get some serious drama over these next 16 minutes, and I think we will.
Yeah.
I have Brazil, France, Jeff.
Oh, wow. That'll be a great final. And you have Argentina, France, right, Andy?
France looks good.
Yeah, I do. Even with France's midfield the way that it is, what we've seen from them the first couple games, I had a lot of questions because of the injuries and everything, and it just doesn't seem to have mattered. And so, we'll see what Brazil does in their second game. I think that's going to be very, very telling. Can they keep up that same kind of just that dominance? And if they can, it could be a kind of a classic matchup in that final, and that would be exciting.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. Here's a question for you then about Mexico. 15 minutes to go. They're obviously giving it a good go now. Where does this kind of Mexico team rank for us, sort of favorite Mexico teams all time? I mean, there's been some great ones over the years, some incredible players, but feels like, as the Mexico fans we're seeing on the screen are praying and hoping their team can get back in it. Where do they kind of rank for you, Nick and Andy? Because it does seem like they're in transition, right? And they're doing well just to keep getting to World Cups. But that next step for this particular team, it's got obviously Ochoa, Guardado, Herrera, who have been excellent stalwarts and servants for this team. But it seems like it doesn't quite match the Mexicos of the past few decades. Is that fair enough to say?
Here's why I can tell you I know they're not near the best of their era, is because earlier I found myself surprised when I was telling you, yeah, I'm rooting for Mexico. when Mexico's at its best, I don't want them to do anything because they've made me so angry in games against the U.S. Better than it was when Tata took over, sure. But I think you go back to that somewhere around the first part of this decade, and you've felt that from the time the U.S. beat them in the World Cup in 2002 moving forward, there were moments when it felt like they could do whatever they wanted. And I honestly think we're going to give another chance for Argentina here. I honestly think that Mexico, I'm saying this out loud, might be one of the most underappreciated national teams in the world for its history. They're never truly bad. They always fight, even when they're down. So, that's my whole way of saying that this team isn't that great.
Yeah, there's been a lot of good teams before them, right, Andy? So, Messi nearly getting in again, by the way, down the touchline. Looks like the ball was out already before he had a shot, but Ochoa saved it with his legs and Messi just having a bit of a laugh to himself. But yeah, Argentina now with Mexico taking a few chances and trying to pour a few extra bodies forward themselves. It's going to be a fun last 10 plus minutes. So yeah, thanks for joining us for this watch along. This is a lot of fun.
Joe, think of the names in Mexico history that we've seen just in the last 30 years, whether it's Claudio Suarez, Rafa Marquez in his prime. We think about him in the Red Bulls days and him being kind of but he in his prime was unbelievable. Tirado, Blanco, Campos. Ochoa's been playing for almost 2 decades too. This really has been one of the Salcido, right? These are centurions all in the same team. And that's why, you hope guys like Alvarez, I think, are building towards that status.
Yeah. And then obviously Chicharito, what he did for so long. And then Jared Borghetti as well, just an absolute goal machine as well. So some legendary players there. And I feel like maybe this is harsh, but Lozano, he's supposed to be that next guy, still young, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to replicate the kind of moments and big displays that they put in. And he's going to need to, right, in this final group stage game against Saudi Arabia. They're going to need him and Jimenez, who just feel really sorry for Raul Jimenez because that horrible injury he had just really is lucky that he could even come back and play the game after that. But obviously just lost all kinds of maybe confidence or rhythm from being out that long. It's never really truly recovered, it seems. And that's been tough on Mexico, as well as Wolves, of course, but really, really tough on Mexico.
And we're closing in on 180 minutes of goalless soccer for Mexico. Like, this is as good as they were in that first half and the way that they controlled things and got the better of Argentina. At the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything if you can't, score goals is one thing, create chances even. This second half, as Argentina have grown into the game, I think that obviously they've picked up confidence as the second half has gone on, but Mexico appears to have gotten a little bit, I don't want to say they're wilting under the pressure, but it's not as confident and it's not as methodic as it was in the first half, I think is the word that I'm looking for there. It's just, I don't know, it has a completely different feel to this Mexico team, and it feels like there's a lot of players out there now that, to the points that both of you were just kind of making, I don't know, this is a big unknown stage for them right now.
Yeah.
Is it possible that both the U.S. and Mexico could exit these tournaments in that rare position of being proud of your team when it doesn't advance? I mean, let's say the U.S. has a scoring draw with Iran and Mexico beats Saudi Arabia but doesn't go through. I mean, I'll still be mad about the Wales game, but the England game showed me a lot. This showed me a lot for Mexico. I mean, even in a game where Guardado checks out and Gutierrez comes in and they barely miss a beat, this has been a really exceptional performance. It's just, doing goat things.
Yeah, that's the difference. I think you're right. I think it's really weird. Even the US fan base, Mexico fan, very similar in those regards. I think, like you said, if they both were to bow out in the group stage, I don't think there'd be too many complaints with the way the teams played in the tournament. Both managers would still be under pressure a little bit, and I think they're not the most popular managers, Tata Martino.
They're both done if they don't go through, right?
Depends. I think it depends. But again, I think it's about performances a little bit as well. I was thinking about this, Greg Berhalter, just the way that they played against England. If they don't go through in the final game and don't get the win against Iran, then do you point to how they played against England in the first half against Wales as saying this is what we can deliver? But this is a special cycle coming up next, right? For Mexico and the USA. The next World Cup is on home soil and is a huge opportunity. And I don't know. What do you guys
You have to look at the two squads, I think, and see where they are and as well, and the experience and the age and the expectation. I think the expectation for Mexico was we have a team that should be competing now. The expectation, depending on who you ask, for the US was somewhere between that's a group they should be able to get out of, and we're just looking towards 2026 to be ready for that and give these players that experience. Mexico not getting out of the group, I think it is a fireable offense. It absolutely is. And I think there's plenty of people already within the Mexican Federation who wanted to fire Tata already. And so this just, I think, gives you cause to go ahead and do that or not renew his contract if that's the situation. So yeah, I cannot see Tata or Scolani surviving not getting out of the group stage, just given what the expectations were coming into this tournament.
Yeah, I agree with that. This is high stakes now. 8 minutes to go, 7 minutes and change, and then stoppage time, which
probably about 6 hours.
Yeah, at least if this tournament's anything to go by. Okay, some Mexico fans saying get Tata out. Yeah, I don't know.
Who are you hiring to replace him is the question.
Well, same with Greg Berhalter as well, right?
Well, it's the same thing you said earlier. You got to see who's available.
You do. I don't. I don't with Burr. I've seen enough with Berhalter to know that I don't want a whole nother cycle of this unless, and this is a big unless. I wrote about this today in how the U.S. could unlock the goals at Pro Soccer Talk. And here's the thing. What we saw between the first and second game was a team that figured out how to keep that first half going into the second half. So if that is a young team learning how to do that, and they do that also the whole game against Iran, and then they do that the whole game against Iran, and then Iran still draws and they don't get through, then I want to have that conversation. But it is going to take that sort of performance over 90 minutes, because not getting through in another way. Listen, where I want the United States men's national team to be, just how I thought they in CONCACAF, you should never fail to qualify. As mad as I was about that, you have to get out of a group with Wales, Iran, and England. And there would have to be a special circumstance to say, yeah, but that's okay. And I just, I don't think Wales is beating England, so winning Iran will do it for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be tense and tight for the US and Mexico heading into their final group stage games. Expected goals, by the way, Mexico still has the edge. 0.27 for them and 0.24 for Argentina. But that is not the stat that matters. The one is Argentina 1, Mexico 0. Lionel Messi striking home with a lovely low effort. And what do we got here? A corner kick for Mexico with 5 minutes to go. Oh, Argentine fans out there, I feel your pain. This is it's got to be torturous for you watching this last 5 minutes here, because this is going to be Yeah, Mexico's going to chuck everything at them now. They got, might as well lose the game 2-0, right? At this point, just keep everyone forward. But this is tense. You can see in the stadium as well, the fans are just tense and very uptight. But a poor cross in, it's cleared. Messi's on the ball. Argentina are breaking away, but a great last-ditch tackle there. I didn't quite see who got that. 23.
Bit of a bad touch in there with that great tackle as well. I think it was DePaul. His touch was about 15 yards out in front.
But Gallardo, right? Yeah, he's been really good. Been really good.
Really good. If you get a chance, guys, rewatch the replay of the goal. The amount of time that Messi had he wasn't closed down. Andy was right in saying it, but it's still remarkable that he got that shot off with that much precision.
Yeah, that's it, right? That is it. It's send us your questions in the comments on this, on Argentina, on Mexico, anything else you want, really. We're here to answer anything football related, life related, whatever you want.
I got one for you that I planned on asking before this game decided to be super duper intense and not give us a breakthrough for a while. When you asked me and Andy whether Mbappe was the best player going right now, the fact that we had to think about it, this is going to sound so cocky for people because we love the Premier League. The fact that we had to think about it makes me think we're not going to know until he moves from PSG. There is no scenario where he can reach the full flight of his powers in League One. I just think it's just got to be the case. And I think the Premier League, I would love to see that. I don't want to have another Messi go his entire career without being measured up. Oh my God.
Wow, what a goal.
That's his right foot, by the way. He's left-footed.
That is game, set, match.
Wow.
Good night.
Incredible goal from number 24 there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Enzo off the bench.
Great substitution. And that is
that's a big call for a manager to make, to bring a player of that age and that inexperience into, at the time when he came on, still 0-0. Obviously, as we've talked about a million times, like Argentina's World Cup hanging in the balance, and that's who you bring off the bench, and that's what he does. Faith rewarded.
Enzo Fernandez, my word, that is incredible.
21 years old.
Right foot curler. So to describe the goal, obviously the ball comes to him and Messi just hugging, by the way, which is absolute scenes.
That's what I was talking about earlier. We talk about pressure of playing with Messi. That's the joy of scoring a goal for Messi's team right there in a big moment in a World Cup. Like, that is something.
Goal,
that's a gorgeous
shot.
Incredible goal. Short corner. Gets the ball, cuts inside on his right foot, and then just bends it into the far top right corner. And Ochoa, could he do better?
I don't know. From that angle, that's a great shot.
Yeah. So what a moment for Enzo Fernandez. Scores 2-0. Game, set, match to Argentina. So the live table now looks very different than it did a few moments ago, right? So we got Poland, top of the group on 4 points after 2 games. Argentina would be second with 3 points and a +1 goal differential. Saudi Arabia will be third and just missing out on the last 16. They have 3 points, but they are on -1. And then Mexico will be bottom of the group with 1 point from their 2 games so far, and they're on -2 when it comes to goal difference. So, yeah, this is intense. So, basically, what needs to happen now is for Mexico to go through, right? Is Mexico needs to beat Saudi Arabia and then hope that Argentina pummels Poland.
By the way, all that and the expected goals jumps to 0.28 because the goals were both spectacular.
An incredible smash and grab with the greatest player of all time in your team. Like, really, really well executed.
They've got the edge on expected goals now, though, by 0.1.
He got the assist. Messi got the assist on that. He's walking right now with 1 chance created and a 0.011 expected goals and 0.006 expected assists.
Wow.
So, not exactly anything expected. That is the angle of that shot from behind the shooter, Joe, I think is what you and I both remarked at the same time. was just, I think you used the phrase perler, and that's perfect.
Yeah,
It's a golf shot. It's what it is.
sensational. And you could see the Argentine fans celebrating in the stands. The Mexico fans obviously look pretty static. And Mexico fans in the comments, let us know how you're feeling, how you doing. Because for most of that game, you looked like you had it under control. But then the little genius Messi pops up. And then obviously Fernandez finishing off. I mean, what is next? We talked about it there, Tata Martino. Is this the end for him? If you don't reach the last 16, which it is looking increasingly likely, it's going to be have to be a pretty drastic win and then help from Argentina in the final game for some of the change. So Mexico fans, how are you feeling? Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be really, really tough to get through to the last 16 now. And I don't know really a world where Mexico doesn't get to the last 16 of the World Cup. It happens every single year. They always seem to find a way out every tournament, right?
It's been a pretty tough second half performance for Mexico. As good as they were in the first half, and just solid in the first half as they were, they've offered next to nothing in the second half. Losing Guardado, I don't think had too much to do with it. Argentina came out of their shell just, I think, a little bit more. And Nick made the point earlier, and I think it's been key. They got a little bit wider underneath whoever the center forward was, whether it was Lautaro earlier, and just creating that space and making Mexico, I think, defend a little bit more ground has pulled them out and created just enough, like to Nick's point on the low XG for Messi's goal and both goals, needed just a tiny little itty bitty piece of space. And once he found it, once they were able to create it for him, obviously he did what he did. So yeah, it's been a mature second half, I think, from Argentina, because they had all the pressure, they had everything riding on those 45 minutes, and they've come out and, for the most part, delivered the goods.
They have, right? It was a bit slow to get going, but even the start of the second half, Nick, you could see there was just the pickup in intensity, like we said, dribbling more kind of intent from Argentina, and it finally paid off.
Yeah, they attacked, and they knew they had to, and sometimes that's when desperation kicks in. Again, just impressed at the 1v1 fight they showed. They're willing to take that to Mexico. I think it didn't really unsettle Mexico, to their credit, but it was something different to look at. It wasn't what you would have seen maybe from a Pep Guardiola Man City, where it would be, let's just keep doing the system, let's just keep going and it'll work out. No, it was, we've got to change something if we want to break through. And yeah, a maestro conducted a masterpiece.
Okay, so Evie Zamora here. Mexico has it in them. They just need better coaching and a better mindset. What do we think about that comment? I mean, I guess we kind of said it. They're going to go out, then probably Tata Martino is probably going to lose his job, right? And it seems like a pretty natural time for it to come to an end and to try something different and to try and get some younger players. And it's a very transitional period for Mexico. And yeah, the mindset, I mean, when you look at the way USA and Canada played against Belgium and England, it's been different from Mexico, but impressive in different ways in the first half. But they haven't been able to keep up that intensity, have they, Andy? And it's
obviously we don't know who the next Mexico boss is going to be. We assume it will change after this World Cup, but it is a big, big task, because Guardado certainly moving on. Hector Herrera now at 32, and he's got over 100 caps playing in MLS for his club ball now. We'll see how much longer he wants to stick around. Hector Moreno, 34 years old. Guillermo Ochoa, 37 years old, with 130 some caps to us. It's like half of this lineup is over 30, at or near or well over 100 caps, and long-time starters that have never been considered. I mean, it's been considered, but it's never had to really be put into action. What do we do without them? Because they have been so ever present. And what we can tell you from a U.S. men's national team perspective about transitional periods, that's a good phrase for it, is they're not fun. They are ugly and rocky and difficult, and you don't always understand why the coach or the players are doing what they're doing, and you have to zoom out really, really far and take that bigger picture look, and remember, it is 3.5 years to the next World Cup. It's not going to look good the first number of international windows for Mexico once they make that changeover. But I do think I think it's very, very necessary at this point, in a lot of the same ways it was for the U.S. after 2014, and they didn't do it, and they probably obviously should have.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's it's just you never get to choose, right, when that moment arrives. As a team or as a coach, it's unfortunately for Tata, it just felt like it was coming, but he's not the man to kind of step down from a challenge and just kind of want to see it through this World Cup and see how it happened. But like we said earlier, it hasn't been really handed a vintage Mexican team there to work with. So I don't know. On the other hand, Scaloni as a young coach coming through, I mean, this is a great victory for him and for confidence that Argentina will grow in this tournament, right? Andy, I think it's one of those big kind of marquee moments for him in his young coaching career where now you found some kind of formula and confidence, and you kind of proven maybe the Saudi Arabia game was just a one-off. Yes, it was tough in the first half, but this is much more like it from Argentina, actually, when they've been more positive and gone for it and actually better playing, more aggressive, right? So hopefully we'll see more of that throughout the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, you can just look at the squad and say, well, how is this team supposed to set up to get its best, to get the largest number of its best players on the field? And it's not setting up super deep defensively. It's not setting up with a couple of defensive midfielders and central midfield. I think it is being very proactive and getting that attacking talent on the field. I think Julian Alvarez made a huge difference in this game once he came on. Obviously, Lautaro did next to nothing when he was on the field, but Alvarez has just occupied the Mexico center back so well, and I think that is a big part of why that space is opened up underneath for Messi and everybody else.
Definitely. Nice comment there from Amanda, just saying, obviously, Viva Mexico, and don't worry, it gets better. This rebuild transitions can happen. As an England fan, trust me, there's a lot of painful moments over the years, but you can get through it. Argentina have got through it. Full-time whistle was gone. A lot of emotions in the stand and on the pitch. 2-0 win for Argentina against Mexico. Breathes new life into Argentina's tournament at the World Cup. As I said, they now sit in second place, 3 points. They are below Poland, who sit top of the group on 4 points. And obviously, they play each other in the final game as well, right? So they have a nice cushion there, knowing that if they beat Poland, then barring some crazy win for Saudi Arabia against Mexico, then they will be top of the group. So it's been a lot of fun, guys. This has been so fun. Final thoughts, really wrapping this up. Andy Edwards, I'll come to you first.
Just how Argentina drew it up at the start of the World Cup. Right, one game to go, perfect position to win the group. Just like this is exactly how they drew it up, and that has nothing to do with the fact that I picked them to win the World Cup before the World Cup started.
You knew this. Nick Mendola, final word from you, mate, on Messi, his brilliance, and Argentina pulling through when they needed to most.
Yeah, what a game. What a game. It was fun to watch it with you guys and to watch it with everybody who's been commenting in the section. This is one of those reasons that you go to the stadium, or one of the reasons that you go out to the pub and hang out with your friends, is because the tension when this game was 0-0. What a performance from Mexico. I know it's not going to look that way now, but if I'm a Mexican fan, I kind of tap them on the shoulder, or I kind of tap myself on the shoulder, shake myself free and say, you know what? If I was watching another nation, I would applaud what they did against a superior opponent. This is not a mystical golden generation Mexico that nearly ended Lionel Messi's career as an international player, his World Cup career. And I just think Mexico needs to be lauded for the effort.
Definitely. I think if they do go out of the World Cup, much like the US, if they do go out of the World Cup as well, it'll be that first group game, right? It will be, when they didn't get past Poland when they were on top, the same as the US didn't get past Wales on top. That's really what's going to be the difference here. It wouldn't be losing to Argentina because we, kind of half expected it, and they were right in it until Messi produced that bit of magic like he can do, and that was the difference. So thanks so much to everyone in the comments section for joining us today. Really do appreciate it. And Nick and Andy, thanks so much for you guys. This has been a lot of fun watching this Messi genius alongside you guys. Hard luck to Mexico. Well done to Argentina. They finally arrived at the World Cup. Thanks to everyone all over the world where you've been commenting from. This is a real pleasure to be joining you. Love getting together for this amazing moment on the world stage. The World Cup always brings people together. It's been a lot of fun, and a reminder there, you can see it going down the bottom of the screen. head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the latest World Cup news, analysis, how to watch information, previews. We'll have you covered because Nick, Andy, and I, that is our life right now. We absolutely love it. The World Cup is magic. And yeah, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. And we'll speak to you all very soon indeed. Cheers, guys.